My family called me their biggest mistake, until they saw what I became now. The story began. The slap landed before I even finished my sentence. You think you can talk to me like that after all I've done for this family? Mama screamed, her wrapper half loosened, her breath shaking with rage. The entire compound froze. Even the chickens stopped scratching the dust. It was New Year's morning in Abeokuta, and while other families were thanking God for life, mine was reminding me I wasn't supposed to exist. You were a curse from the day you were born, Mama spat. If the gods had mercy, they would have taken you instead of your brother. Her words hit harder than her hand. My cousins stared, whispering. My father said nothing, just kept eating his pounded yam like a man deaf to the chaos he created. In that moment, something inside me died quietly, like a candle snuffed out in Harmattan wind. I looked around at the faces that had fed off my sweat, the same people I'd carried on my back since I was 17. I smiled through the tears and whispered, "One day, you'll remember this slap. And you'll wish you had treated me better." No one knew the storm had only just begun. In the dusty heart of Abeokuta, where the morning air carried the smell of roasted corn and diesel, lived the Adeyemi family, a name once respected, now sinking quietly under the weight of its own pride. Our house stood at the edge of Oke-Ile, a modest bungalow painted the color of old palm oil. The zinc roof sang whenever rain came, and Mama would always say, "Even heaven pities us enough to sing our sorrows." I was Amara Adeyemi, the youngest of four, the quiet one, the mistake child. My siblings had always been the golden ones. Kunle, the firstborn, swaggered around with the confidence of a prince, though his tailoring shop had been closed for months. Bisi, my sister, had once dreamt of becoming a nurse but preferred gossip and quick money. Tunde, the peacemaker, left for Lagos years ago and never looked back. Mama ruled the house with her tongue sharper than any cane. Papa, a retired civil servant, ruled with silence, the kind that felt heavier than shouting. By 25, I was the only one still living under their roof. I paid most of the bills with my 2 jobs, a cashier at a local supermarket by day, and a night school tutor by evening. My siblings ate my food, wore my perfumes, and called me stingy whenever I refused to give more. Still, I stayed because blood, no matter how poisoned, still felt like home. Every morning before dawn, I'd walk past the sleeping compound to fetch water from the well. The cool wind of Ogun State brushed against my skin as I whispered prayers no one ever heard. God, don't let my story end like this. When I wasn't working, I was building something in secret. A dream, a quiet rebellion. For 3 years, I had been learning digital marketing through free courses on my small techno phone. While everyone mocked me for pressing phone too much, I was teaching myself to build websites, run ads, and manage brands. My goal was simple: to create an online agency that helped small Nigerian businesses go global. I called it the Rise Project in my mind, though I hadn't yet told a soul, but dreams in a house like ours were dangerous things. Whenever I spoke about wanting to move to Lagos to start my own business, Mama would sneer, "Lagos? You? You can't even cook jollof without burning it, and you think Lagos will respect you?" The words hurt more than I admitted. Still, I smiled through them. I had learned long ago that silence was a sharper weapon than argument. That was until the morning she slapped me, the morning that changed everything. It started over money. Kunle needed N150,000 to reopen his failed shop, and Mama decided I should give it to him. "Mama, that's all I have left from my savings," I said softly. "It's for my rent." "Rent? You live in my house, yet you want to pay rent elsewhere?" She snapped. "You will stay here and support your brother. That is your duty as a daughter." I looked at Kunle, who couldn't even meet my eyes. "Mama, I'm not doing it," I said quietly. The silence that followed was volcanic. Then came the slap, and the words that would burn in my memory forever. "You should never have been born." That night, while the compound slept, I sat under the mango tree behind our house and made a decision that would rewrite my life. I would disappear. Not in anger, but in clarity. I took one last look at the home where love had turned to obligation, then whispered to the night, "If I'm truly your mistake, then watch what your mistake will become." By sunrise, I was gone, my backpack filled with only clothes, a laptop and 80,000 in savings, and a heart ready for war. Lagos did not welcome me with open arms. It spat me out, tested me, and watched to see if I would crawl back home. The first week, I stayed with my childhood friend, Chica, in a cramped one-room apartment in Ojuelegba. The air there was thick, with heat, with hustle, with the sound of Danfo drivers cursing at traffic. Every morning, I'd join the ocean of bodies chasing buses to Yaba, clutching my laptop like a lifeline. Chica worked at a betting shop and often joked, "In this Lagos, it's either you bet or you sweat." I was doing both. I spent hours in cyber cafes sending out emails to clients who never replied, pitching myself to small businesses online. Nobody wanted to hire a nobody without connections. Still, I refused to quit. Each rejection became fuel. My money ran out faster than I expected. N80,000 disappeared into transport, food, and network data. By the third week, I was eating only once a day and bread and pure water. Chica noticed but said nothing. She was struggling too. Then, one rainy evening, everything shifted. I had gone to deliver a small website job for a boutique owner in Surulere. I had spent 2 nights awake finishing it, using free Wi-Fi from a nearby cafe. But when I arrived, the woman frowned. "This isn't what I asked for," she snapped. "Ma, I followed the—" "Don't argue with me. You're too small to teach me business." She shoved N2000 into my palm, half of what we agreed, and walked away. I stood in the rain, shaking. Not from cold, but from humiliation. That night, I sat by the window, watching lightning dance over the city. My phone buzzed with a message from Mama. "Kunli said you left without saying goodbye. Don't bother coming back. We have moved on." I stared at the screen until my tears blurred the words. Then I laughed, a hollow, tired laugh. That was the night I made a promise to myself. If they called me a mistake, I'd become the kind of mistake that could not be ignored. I poured my pain into work. I joined online freelancing groups, taught myself design, branding, and copywriting. I slept 4 hours a night and worked till dawn. Slowly, the tides began to change. My first real breakthrough came from a Ghanaian clothing brand on Instagram. They liked my work and paid me $200, more than I had earned in months. I screamed so loud that Chica thought I was possessed. That money didn't just feed me, it lit a fire. I registered my small brand officially, the Rise Project Media. But Lagos has a way of testing every dream. A few months later, I met Desmond. Charming, smooth-talking, and dangerously confident. He ran a small PR firm and claimed to see potential in me. "Amara, you're different," he'd say. "Work with me. I'll show you how to play in the big league." He was everything I thought I needed, a mentor, a partner, maybe even love. For 6 months, we worked together. Clients came in. Money began to flow. Desmond handled finances. I handled creativity. But one morning, I woke up to find his phone switched off, his office empty, and every account we shared wiped clean. 3.2 million. Gone. He disappeared like smoke. I sat on the floor of my empty room, shaking. My rent was due. My business and my dream was gone overnight. For the first time since I left Abeokuta, I broke down. The city outside kept roaring, but inside me, something quiet snapped. That night, I walked to 3rd Mainland Bridge. Not to jump, but to look. To see the water, the endless dark, and to remember why I left home. I whispered, "If life wants war, I'll give it war." From that day, I built again, this time smarter, harder, alone. I learned to code. I offered services internationally. I used my pain as my story as my brand. Within a year, my small agency was serving clients from Kenya, South Africa, and the UK. Still, I told no one at home. I wanted silence to be my revenge, but silence has a way of drawing curiosity. One afternoon, as I prepared to attend a business conference in Accra, I received a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was trembling. "Amara, it's Kunlao." I froze. I hadn't heard that name in over 2 years. "Mama is sick," he said softly. "She's been asking for you." I wanted to hang up. But something in his tone, guilt maybe, had held me still. "She has cancer," he added. "Please, come home." I ended the call without replying. That night, I stared at my reflection in the hotel mirror, dressed in a crisp blazer, the logo of the Rise Project Global gleaming behind me. The girl who once begged for Wi-Fi was now signing partnerships worth millions. But why, after all these years, were they calling me back now? Was it guilt? Or something darker? I turned off my phone and whispered, "Let them wait. The storm is not done yet." The first thing I noticed when I returned to Abeokuta wasn't the dust. It was the silence. The compound that once rang with Mama's shouting now felt haunted. The gate creaked open like it hadn't been touched in months. I stepped inside slowly, suitcase in hand, my heels crunching on dry leaves. Kunle appeared from the doorway, thinner, older, eyes full of something between shame and fear. "Amara," he said quietly, as if the name itself could break him. I didn't hug him. "Where is she?" I asked. He pointed toward the inner room. I walked past him without a word. Mama lay on a bamboo bed, wrapped in faded ankara. Her hair was mostly gray now, her skin pale like the ashes of a fire once bright. But her eyes, they were still sharp. When she saw me, she froze. For a heartbeat, neither of us spoke. Then tears rolled down her face. "Amara, you came," I nodded. "You called," I answered. She reached for my hand, but I didn't move closer. Years of silence stood between us like a wall of ghosts. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for everything." The words hit me like thunder. Too late, too soft. Before I could reply, Kunle entered with a tray of soup. His hands trembled so much that half the broth spilled onto the floor. "Mama needs to eat," he muttered. But something about the scene felt wrong. Their eyes avoided mine. Their words came too easily. Their kindness tasted rehearsed. That night, I couldn't sleep. The moonlight spilled across Mama's face as she slept, and I watched the slow rise and fall of her chest, wondering if her illness was real or another trap. Around midnight, I went outside to get some air. That's when I saw them, Kunle and Bisi, whispering near the kitchen hut. I stepped closer, keeping to the shadows. Bisi's voice trembled. "Do you think she'll agree?" Kunle sighed. "She doesn't have to agree. Once she signs the papers, we'll handle the rest." "What about Mama?" "She'll believe it's for her treatment. Amara doesn't know Papa left the land in her name." My heart stopped. Papa's land, 5 acres of fertile soil near the new highway, the same land developers had been fighting to buy for years. They hadn't called me back out of love. They wanted my signature. I stumbled backward, my breath catching in my throat. The family that once called me a mistake now wanted to use me as a ticket to their own fortune. By morning, I had a plan. When Kunle brought the documents for Mama's treatment, I sat beside her and smiled. "Mama," I said sweetly, "I'll take care of everything. But I'll need to read the papers first." He froze, his lips twitching. "It's just hospital forms." "Then you won't mind if I have my lawyer review them." The silence that followed could slice through bone. That was when I saw it. The flicker of guilt in Mama's eyes. The truth she had been hiding. "Amara," she whispered, voice breaking, "your father didn't just leave the land. He left you something else. Something I never told anyone," I frowned. "What are you talking about?" She glanced at Kunle, then back at me. "There's a letter in the old chest by the mango tree. Read it, and you'll understand why I called you home." That night, I opened the chest with shaking hands. Inside was a sealed envelope, yellowed with age, addressed to me in Papa's handwriting. As I unfolded it, the words blurred through tears. "My dear Amara, if you are reading this, it means I am gone. I left the land in your name not for wealth, but for protection. What lies beneath that soil must never be sold. It is the reason they will come for you." Your father, my heart pounded. Beneath the land? What did he mean? I looked toward the window, where the shadows of my siblings moved quietly in the dark. For the first time, I realized this wasn't just about family. It was about something far more dangerous. The storm had only just begun again. The next morning, Abeokuta felt heavier, like the air itself knew what was coming. I sat on the veranda, clutching Papa's letter, while the first rays of sun slid through the clouds. The words, "What lies beneath that soil must never be sold," echoed in my head like a drumbeat. Kunle and Bisi were pretending to care for Mama, but I saw how they avoided my eyes, like thieves waiting for darkness. I needed to know the truth. After breakfast, I walked to the land Papa mentioned, the same plot behind the old church, now surrounded by dry bushes and half-broken fences. The place was silent except for the hum of crickets. I stood there, shoes sinking into the red dust, and whispered, "Papa, what did you hide here?" Then I saw it. An old carved stone half buried in the ground, the same pattern Papa used to draw when he prayed. It wasn't random. It was a marker. I knelt and brushed the soil aside with trembling hands until my fingers hit something wooden, the edge of a small chest. My heart stopped. I pulled it free, wiped away the dirt, and pried it open. Inside were wrapped documents, photographs, and a small leather bag sealed with wax. When I untied it, gold dust shimmered in the sunlight. Not jewelry, raw gold flakes. My chest tightened. Papa hadn't just owned land. He had found gold beneath it, and that was why my family wanted me back. Suddenly, a voice behind me said, "I knew you'd find it." I turned sharply. Kunle stood there, his shirt soaked in sweat, eyes dark with greed. BC trailed behind him, looking nervous. "So it's true," he said, stepping closer. "All these years Papa was hiding gold, and you're the only one he trusted." I stood tall, clutching the chest. "He trusted me because I'm not like you," Kunle's lip curled. "You always thought you were better. But let's see how far that pride gets you." He lunged forward. We struggled, the chest falling between us. BC screamed as gold dust spilled into the red soil like blood. I pushed him back hard. "You've lost your mind, Kunle." He laughed. It's a bitter, broken sound. "No, Amara. I've found my reason to live." Before I could react, he pulled something from his pocket. A small kitchen knife. The blade caught the light, flashing like lightning. "Put it down," I shouted, but he didn't. He came closer, whispering, "You took everything from me. The land, the money, Mama's love." I backed away, heart racing. "You destroyed yourself." Bissy tried to grab his arm, but he shoved her aside. In that chaos, Mama's voice cut through the air from behind us, hoarse, desperate. "Kunle! Stop this madness!" She had followed us, leaning weakly on her stick. The sight of her, pale, trembling, froze him for a second. "Mama," he stammered. "You don't understand." "I understand too well," she said. "Your father died protecting this secret. The gold wasn't his to use, it belonged to the community. We all froze." "What?" I whispered. Mama nodded slowly, tears filling her eyes. "Your father discovered the gold when he was a young man. He swore to the elders he'd never exploit it, that he would guard it until the right time. He buried it under his land, waiting for someone pure enough to protect it." She looked at me then, her voice trembling. "That's why he chose you, Amara. Because you had nothing but truth in your heart." The air went still. Even the birds stopped singing. Kunle's face twisted, rage, disbelief, envy, all colliding. "So he loved her more than us?" Mama shook her head. "He loved what was right more than what was easy." Kunle screamed and swung the knife. Mama gasped. But before he could reach her, I stepped forward and grabbed his wrist. We fought, slipping in the red dirt. The knife sliced my arm, pain bursting like fire, but I didn't let go. I used my knee, my weight, every ounce of fury that years of humiliation had built inside me. The knife flew from his hand and landed near Mama's feet. She kicked it away, her voice trembling. "Enough!" Kunle fell to his knees, chest heaving, eyes wide. Then for the first time, I saw not anger, but shame. He broke down, crying. I just wanted him to see me too. Mama sank beside him, tears streaming down her face. "He did, my son. But you let greed blind you." I stood there, bleeding, staring at the spilled gold dust shining in the morning sun. Beautiful, deadly, cursed. That was when the sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had called the police. Probably a neighbor. When the officers arrived, the scene looked like a bad dream. Blood, gold, tears. They questioned us for hours before sealing the site. Kunle was taken away for assault, though Mama begged them to be gentle. BC stayed silent, eyes swollen from crying. Before the police left, one officer looked at me and said quietly, "Whatever your father left you, guard it well. People kill for less." That night, I sat beside Mama's bed as the generator hummed outside. Her breathing was shallow. "Amara," she said softly, "forgive me." I swallowed hard. "For what?" "For every word I said that broke you. I thought I was protecting you from disappointment, but all I did was chain you to pain." Her voice cracked. "You were never a mistake. You were my second chance." Tears spilled down my face. I held her hand. "Rest, Mama, I forgive you." She smiled weakly. "Then I can go in peace." Her hand grew still in mine. The hum of the generator faded into silence. By dawn, the world outside had changed. The sun rose over Abeokuta like it was washing the land clean, but I knew the past would always live in its soil. Papa's secret had nearly destroyed us. But in its ashes, I found my purpose. I returned to Lagos days later, not as the girl who ran away, but as a woman who had survived her own bloodline. That night, I opened a new company branch, the Rise Foundation, to fund education for girls from poor families. I named the first scholarship after Mama. As I stood before the cameras, I whispered to myself, if being their mistake made me this strong. Then I thanked God for every scar. The storm was over, but the empire had only begun. 3 months after Mama's burial, Abeokuta felt different. The mango tree where Papa's letter was found had begun to bloom again, soft green leaves reaching for the sky like forgiveness itself. The court settled the land dispute quietly. The gold site was handed over to the state under my supervision, with a clause that a portion of its proceeds would go to community development and education. For once, I didn't feel angry, just at peace. BC came to visit me one evening in Lagos. She stood in my office doorway, nervous, older, her bright lipstick unable to hide the guilt in her eyes. You've changed, she said softly. I smiled. I had to. She looked down. I'm sorry for what we did. For what I did, I nodded. We all were just trying to survive the only way we knew how. When she left, she hugged me tightly, the first real hug between us since childhood. It felt like healing. At night, I often thought about Mama's last words. You were never a mistake. They echoed through me whenever I walked into boardrooms, whenever journalists asked how I built a media empire from nothing, whenever young girls wrote to me saying, you give me hope. I never told them the full story. That the same hands that once slapped me into silence had also pushed me toward my destiny. But sometimes, pain is a teacher. Sometimes, rejection is the hand of fate, rough, cruel, but guiding you toward your purpose. One weekend, I returned to Abeokuta quietly. No cameras, no staff, just me. I stood by the land again, now fenced and guarded. Children played nearby, laughing, chasing each other in the red dust. An old woman passing by recognized me. You're Chief Adeyemi's daughter, Abi? She asked with a toothless smile. Yes, Ma. Your father would be proud, she said. He used to say, even from the deepest wound, the tree can still grow again. Her words made my eyes sting. As the sun sank over the hills, I whispered a silent prayer for my family, for Mama's restless spirit, for Kunli's lost years, for BC's healing, and for the father who saw gold not just in the soil, but in his forgotten daughter. When I turned to leave, the wind carried a faint scent of smoke and mango leaves, the same smell that once meant home. This time it didn't hurt. It felt like blessing. In every African family, there's a story like mine. A child dismissed, a dream buried, a heart underestimated. But destiny is stubborn. It doesn't ask for permission. It only waits for courage. My name is Amara Adeyemi, and the world once called me a mistake. Now they call me a miracle. In the end, I learned what Papa meant all along. Gold doesn't just lie beneath the earth. Sometimes, it beats quietly inside the one you cast aside. So, when they doubt you, let their disbelief be your fire. Because as we say in Yoruba, a river that forgets its source will dry before it reaches the sea. Until next time, remember, even the wound can bloom.